is to click on Create New, and that's how you can create a new document.
Get started in Photoshop as a complete beginner without wasting any more time. Let's get straight into it.
So in today's day and age, Photoshop is clearly a really valuable skill set. In fact, I've been able to build a six-figure content creation agency, and Photoshop is a huge part of that. So you should definitely pay attention to this video, watch it until the end, and master Photoshop for yourself, because you're going to be able to even sell this as a skill. So once you open Photoshop, this is kind of what you're going to see. So the first thing that you need to know if you want to get started is to click on Create New, and that's how you can create a new document. And as you can see, here you can set the name of the document, the resolution of the document, the orientation, and a lot more, also the color mode. So for this document, I'm going to set 1080 by 1350 as the resolution, and I'm going to call it Instagram picture because I'm going to edit an Instagram picture for myself, and I'm going to click on Create. So now, as you can see, my brand new document is created, and you're going to be seeing something like this as well when you create your first document. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is import in a picture of mine. So all I need to do for that is to go on my desktop where I have my pictures. I'm going to drag and drop it right to this document, and boom, you can see it's already in there. So if I want to, I can make it bigger or smaller with this thing. If I hold down Shift, I can actually adjust the way it is completely, so I can try the left. These are the ones that you're going to use the most to edit your pictures and manipulate them. And if you are looking for anything that isn't right there on this bar, you can always just go to Window and then toggle on and off any of these different tools. Basically, right here, you can find the history, which is a tool where you can either go forward or backward with the progress of your image. So if you want to undo something, you can do it right there. Or if you want to go back to a previous place where you were before, then you can do that as well. So that's really useful. And then here you have the color selector and all these different things that you can use. Here you have adjustments where you can do a lot of cool manipulations for your pictures. And here you have the different layers, which I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into later on in this video. So now first let's go over the most important and most used tools right here. So this first one is the Move tool, which is something you can use to move anything around, any of the layers, anything really on your picture. Now the next one is the Selection tool, which is also something that you're going to use a lot. It is something that you can use to, for example, select a part of your picture and then make a selection with it, like the name suggests. And for example, if I wanted to just copy and paste this part of the image, I can just click on Command C and Command V, and you can see I just made another layer right here, and now I have this separate part as well. And you can see here with this eye icon, you can also toggle on and off any of the different layers, which is a pretty useful thing, because once you have a lot of layers, you might not want to see all of them at once. You might just want to edit a certain layer, so that can be really useful as well. The next tool, now it is something that you can also use to create a select. Press down your mouse or your whatever you're using, your type, and make a selection like that. Now if you want to go out of a selection, you can always just click on this one and then click anywhere, and the selection is going to go away. The next tool is the Quick Selection tool, which is something that I personally use all the time to mask out people or mountain, to mask myself out of this image. I would first need to click on this one, which is the plus. Now if you're on this plus brush, then you're basically adding more things into your selection, and if you go into the minus brush, then you're subtracting things from your selection. So first I'm just going to add myself, and you can see how smart Photoshop is at detecting like different edges and all that. You can later on also adjust this, but you can see how it's doing a pretty good job at selecting just myself. That is it. It did a pretty good job. Now if I wanted to do any like really precise adjustments to this selection, I could hit Q on my keyboard like this. You can see now all the parts that aren't selected.
QuickBooks Online Accountant helps Stephen manage and communicate with all his clients all on one simple account, so he can spend time doing whatever it is Stephen is into doing.
Q on my keyboard, like this, you can see now all the parts that aren't selected are in red, and the parts that are selected are not red, obviously. So if you want to make any small tiny adjustments, you can just zoom in on your image, which you can do by either just using your touchpad or clicking Command minus and plus. And basically then you want to go to this brush tool, or just press B on your keyboard. And then if you have black color selected, you're going to be adding more things to the selection by brushing over it. And if you have the white color selected, you are going to take things out of your selection. And you can switch between black and white by just pressing X on your keyboard. So once you perfected your selection, you will click on Q again. So now I'm happy with my selection. I'm just going to press Command C and Command V, and you can see how I just cut myself out and now there is no background attached to this image. The next tool is the crop tool. You can use this to crop your image to whatever kind of size you want it to. Now the next tool that I use a lot is the spot healing brush. Now, this is something that you can use if you want to cover up any imperfections or anything like that. I don't know what would be the best example in this case, but maybe like any small acne or anything like that can be easily fixed with this. So I'm just going to create a smaller brush size, which you can adjust right here on the bottom top, even smaller one. And then I'm just gonna brush over this, and you can see how it disappeared. It is a really, really cool tool to use if you have any stains on a shirt or any acne or anything like that that you want to just cover up. The next tool is the brush tool. I kind of covered that already with the selection part, but basically this is just the brush tool. Like you can brush over things with it. It is really, really useful. You can use it in a bunch of different ways. Here you can actually select how big you want the size of the brush to be, the hardness of the brush to be, and the flow as well, all these different things. I think you should go ahead and experiment with it a little bit. This alone is just a tool that I could spend minutes, like tens of minutes talking on, and this is not the video for that. But if you want to learn it for yourself, do some adjustments and see how it works. But you can see how I can, brush over things with it. Now, a really cool tool that you can kind of combine with this and everything else is how the opacity of the layers work. So if you go right here to the bottom right corner and you click on opacity, you can actually change the opacity of these different layers, so you can see how it changes the whole thing. Now the next tool is the clone stamp, which is also a really, really useful tool to use. Basically with this you can kind of also get rid of anything on your image or cover things up. So for example, if I wanted to fix my hair on this image, you can see it's all over the place. I would go here and make my brush size smaller, and then I need to click Option on my keyboard and then take a part of the image, which I'm going to kind of like duplicate on the image, and then you can see the object must be rasterized. That's fine. You can click OK on that, and then you can see how it kind of just takes a part of the image and lays over on the other part, and this is really, really fun to use as well. Like you can see I already fixed up my hair, and I just got rid of that. Obviously you would want to do like a much better job at this and take more samples and make it more precise, but you can cover up anything with this. Now the next often used tool is the eraser tool. You can use this to erase any parts of a certain layer. So if I wanted to erase my head, for example, from this image, I'm just going to this is something that you can use to create different ingredients, obviously. So I'm going to create a new layer, which you can do by clicking on this button right here. And if I click on this part, I can make the gradient different color. So let's make this one, for example, green. And then I can just go and do this, and then you can see I just made a cool gradient. So this looks pretty modern if you ask me. I can adjust the position of these. So you can see, because I already cut myself out of the frame, I have this. I can actually make it look something like this, which would be pretty modern looking and kind of cool actually. So yeah, you can use this to create different gradients. There are a bunch of different presets here as well. And yeah, it is also a really useful tool to play around with. Now the next very often used tool is the text tool. Basically all you need to do with this is to create a new layer or select the layer that you want to write on, and then press somewhere on the image, and then you can basically start writing. So I'm just going to say fashion on this picture. Now I can move this around by clicking Command and T on this text, and I can make it bigger or smaller, whatever I want really. Then I can also obviously change the order of these, so I'm going to make myself overlay that text kind of, and you can select this text and change the font to anything that you want to change it to, and boom, you can see I just changed the font. That is how simple it is to use. You can change the color of the text or anything really. You can do whatever you want. That's one of the reasons why Photoshop is so great, because there are so many ways to manipulate your image and create amazing art. So the last thing I want to cover right now of the tools is the different shape tools. So you can have a rectangle tool, a rounded rectangle tool, ellipse tool, polygon, line, whatever. There are so many different shapes and things that you can use, and you can see that you can select the fill here. So with the rectangle, it's basically going to be like what the shape is filled with. You can also have a stroke if you want to, or you can have no stroke. And yeah, basically you just go ahead, and that's how easy it is to create a different any rectangle types, and this is the same way the other shape tools work as well. Okay, so the next thing I quickly want to go over is blend.
On Adapted Mind Reading, stories are designed to build vocabulary and comprehension. There are hundreds of...
The next thing I quickly want to go over is blending mode. So on this image, I want to add a lens flare to it. So I actually downloaded this cool lens flare image from Google. So I'm just going to drag and drop it on top of my picture, and I'm going to actually make this be the top layer so it overlays everything else. I'm going to press Command T and resize it so it's a little bit bigger, and I want the lens flare to kind of come in something like this, like it was the sun. And then I'm going to place this layer right here, and then next I'm going to go here to blending mode, and then you can see how it works with the different blending modes. So for example, with lighten or screen, it blends in pretty well. So I'm going to select screen, maybe make it a little bit even bigger, and you can see how it added like really cool lens flare effect to it. Now if I want to soften the edges of this, I can just use my eraser tool, make the hardness lower, and you can see if I turn it into a smart object, I can kind of take out parts where I don't want it to have it, and boom, that is how simple it is. I just added a cool lens flare to the image and made it a lot more exciting in my opinion. Another thing I quickly want to go over is the adjustments. So if I want to, for example, make myself a little bit more contrasty or brighter on this image, I'm going to click on this layer that I want to adjust it, and then I can choose any of these different adjustments. So you can change the hue or saturation of it, exposure, vibrance, anything like that. So I'm just going to create a curve here and create an S-curve to make it a little bit brighter and more contrasty at the same time. And you can see how this adjusts layers that are under it. So I can on and off it and see how it changes the contrast of the whole image. But if I only wanted to adjust one layer that is under it, I can right click on it, create clipping mask, and you can see now it only adjusts my face and my masked out self. Now I'm going to go over blending options really quickly as well. So select the layer that you want to change the blending options of, and this is a place where you can do a bunch of cool stuff with it. Like you can change the stroke of it, and here you can make the stroke any size. You can also do like different bevel and embossing here as well to make it look like 3D kind of stuff. I'm not gonna go super deep into it, but I want you to, play around with it and check it out for yourself. You can do like gradients, overlays here on whatever layer you're adjusting, pattern overlays, a bunch of cool stuff, and one of my favorites is the drop shadow, which you're probably going to be using a lot, and you can, adjust the angle of the drop shadow, the distance of the drop shadow here, the size of it, the opacity of it, and you can see how I created this cool looking text by just adjusting a couple blending options. Now that you have your masterpiece ready, let's go over how to actually export this image. So you're going to go into File, Save As, and then you're going to go Save on your computer, and then you will select wherever you want to save it. You can name it here, and you can select the format here. So I'm going to use JPEG for this one, and then I click Save. I can choose what kind of quality I want it to be. I'm going to press on the max quality and OK. And then boom, that is basically all there is to it. You can see now my image is right here and saved on my desktop. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like below and subscribe to the channel for more